Here's a question for you guys. Can we talk about stories that have taken place in not like in school, but around a school?
Yeah,
Do
that's
you
fine.
have a story you want to tell?
Well, this kind of goes back to bad habits and about how being like completely sober made me like meet the worst person in my life.
So your straight edge
My straight edge demeanor,
demeanor. Okay.
besides overdosing on
Energy
what's that
drinks.
stuff that puts you to sleep when you do surgeries?
Uh,
Anesthesia.
yeah, yeah.
For getting my Anne Boleyn tumor removed. Besides that, I've never done drugs
It's for the
or
best. It's
alcohol.
for the best.
But there's an issue with that, right? Because we go and we have, before the big old roni, the pepperoni ruined a lot of people's lives. We used to get together and have these like crazy parties. And crazy as in gamer parties, which is like, come on,
Max,
you guys are
what are
just
you
getting
saying?
drunk in a pool.
What are you saying, Max?
I'm saying gamers are bad, but that's besides the
Gamers are a
point.
different kind of crazy, all right?
Yeah, they are a different kind of crazy. But we used to have these crazy parties, and it would just be me and like maybe one other person that was sober the whole time. So it was like I always kind of felt like a little left out. Like I know like it's my choice or whatsoever. And how I replaced that void was I used dating apps. Because I always like desperately like I guess wanted love, and the dating apps were like, this is your solution, like you can find love on here. And really it was just a game, like you're just playing a game on your phone, like that's really what it is. But I would like swipe every day, constantly be swiping, and then I got up to school on main campus and I'm swiping, and I match with this girl who has a pretty interesting bio. And actually I'm having a real conversation with her, right?
We all
I'm
we all
like,
have
this
those
is
ones.
yeah, like this is crazy. Like I just swung out, like I went on 3 dates beforehand, and I swung out on all of them, and they were all like I thought it all went great, but it obviously didn't. And I had already flopped on love a couple times. It kind of shot me in the wrong direction. And I mean, even Sam knows I had a Tinder problem for a really long time because every once in a while he asks me how it's
Oh,
going.
yeah.
And I'll tell him I've been cold turkey for almost a year, and he's like, no, you haven't. I'm like, yes, I have, Sam. That's besides the point. So I matched with this girl. I was going to change her name, but I'm not. Her name is Liz.
Dang.
Uh,
Max, this is the
I
second
mean,
time
there's
you
like,
doxed yourself in like 2 minutes.
yeah, but like, there's no way
All right.
there's no way anybody can find
We'll see
her.
what
I'm already
happens.
working on tracking you down, dude. So
We'll see what happens.
Maybe you guys could, but even you, like, I had like no other contact with her besides Tinder, and there's 1,000 Elizabeths
Through the
everywhere.
swiping app.
Yeah, through the swiping app. But I matched with her. I'm like, she seems really cool. Let's go on a date. So I propose Quadoba.
Let me ask you a question,
And now
Max, real quick.
What's up?
Slightly off topic. You would describe yourself as a straight shooter too, right? When it comes to like your conversations regarding this kind of stuff, like you're just the kind of guy like, hey, I think you're cool. Let's go on a date, right? Like no.
No. I like to pretend like I am, but no.
Oh, all right. Anyway, get back to your story.
I'm a big culprit of the Danny Phantom illness. I just go ghost a lot. And that's because like the issue with Tinder is that you have so many options, and you're like you don't want to like sit down and actually learn a person. You rather just go to the next one, which is the reason why I had to just go cold turkey on all of it. But
yeah, go ahead.
so I meet up with this girl. She lived like a couple blocks down from me. So I meet up with her and I say, "Hey, let's go to Cordoba." And she corrects me and says I'm saying it wrong. It's actually like something else. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I failed Spanish."
The Mexican place?
And yeah.
Okay.
And like the whole time she's correcting me, and I'm like you're not even Hispanic. Like, why are you doing this to me? And so we go there, I buy her a meal, whatever. We sit down and I'm talking. and she's telling me all about how many concussions she has. I'm like, wait, you have how many concussions? This girl had 14 concussions.
I think it
14
becomes,
individual.
once you get your first concussion, it becomes easier to get concussed afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
But the story she had about how she got concussions, I was like, oh my God, you need to just never leave your home.
Was she an athlete?
I think the first concussion was an athlete, but the other 13 weren't.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she told me she couldn't put a cup down on the table because, like, I guess her depth perception. So, like, I'm not trying to like judge her on this, but I didn't think this was like, I didn't know it was an actual thing. But once you get so many concussions, your depth perception changes, and apparently she couldn't even like get the cup on the table. Like, she would have to like continuously watch it as it came down and touched the table. That's how bad it was.
So this is all the stuff she's leading off with.
Yeah, this is the first date.
She's
this
like,
is we're at
I have
Cordoba.
several concussions, like more than several concussions.
Yeah.
I have poor depth perception.
Yeah.
How are you?
I mean, she's clearing the air, man. She's making sure everything's out there.
I guess.
Now, I'm not a very attractive person,
Hang on.
so I'll take pretty much
Debatable.
whatever
Don't
comes
take
to
the
me.
viewers,
Debatable.
don't take that as fact.
I'm
alright?
Max,
I'm a 2 out of 10, baby.
no put downs. You can't put yourself down here.
If we had $10 to spend on the dollar menu. Anyways,
Anyway,
I'm not gonna put myself down too much, but I'll pretty much, if a girl is interested enough in me to go on a date, I'll go on a date with her and see how things go. And that has led to a lot of these crazy date stories. But this girl's got to be the craziest one. So she's leading off with all this stuff. She tells me about a couple of her concussions, and I'm just blown away. And then she starts talking about this dog meme page that she's obsessed with. And she's like, you can't rate dogs on a normal scale. You have to rate them above 10. And I'm like, no, I can rate dogs however I want. Like a pug, I'm going to rate you a 1.5.
So
1.5 out of 10.
might I ask, like, what does she mean by that, right? Like instead of a 1 out of 10, you'd like give it like 1 out of 20 or something, or?
You got to give it, like, if it's a dog, it's above a 10. So if you're rating it out of 10, it's like 11 out of 10, 12 out of 10,
so
14 out of 10.
So dogs
because she follows some
inherently-
sort of Tinder page
Oh,
or
okay.
Twitter page that does
So
it.
dogs inherently have higher value than 100%. Like a 10 out of 10, they have to be higher than that.
Yeah.
Because she just likes dogs that much.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, I mean,
But she got it all from this internet page, and she's like, you got to rate a dog just like how this internet page does it. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm eating a soggy quesadilla and talking to this girl who has 14 concussions about how I've been rating dogs wrong my whole life. And I've never rated a dog before that date.
you've never just stopped to consider that's like a 6 out of 10 dog.
Yeah. Never.
Well, of
Never.
course not, because
And-
all dogs are pretty cool,
Yeah.
right?
They're all above 10, dude.
Yeah, dude. I'm not I'm not out here to compare one dog to another, dude. They're all chilling, you know. So, I
So
respect
yeah, like I don't want to spend my time rating dogs, because every time we saw a dog, she would ask me what it was, and of course I'm gonna joke. Of course I'm gonna be like, that's a 2 out of 10,
You're
And
just
then
playing
watch
it
her
off, right?
and watch her flip out, because I'm like, this is hilarious. But I didn't realize she was serious when she was flipping out on me.
She was overly serious about it.
Yeah, she was like super into it. So I'm eating the soggy quesadilla. All these dogs are walking by, and we're messing around. And I'm like, okay, let's roll. Let's get out of here. And we leave. We end up like walking around campus for a little bit. I walk her back home. I'm like, I am never seeing that girl ever again. And I walk back to my house. I relax, and then my phone blows up. And she's like talking to me constantly. So eventually she asked me to go on a second date. And I'm like, maybe I should give this girl the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe
Like,
maybe
I'll
she
just
was
go.
hungover or having CTE symptoms or something.
Could have been everything, right? So we're walking to the next, it's probably the next week or whatever. The first date was in the middle of the day. This date's at night. right? And that's important for the story. It's like 7 o'clock. We're going to get dinner. We go to a different variation of Subway pizza.
Oh no.
But this one's actually pretty good. I like this Subway pizza.
Okay.
But we're walking because, of course, the campus I was on had like 27 different Subway pizzas, and they were all different in different ways. But we're walking there, and she finally asked me the first question about myself, which like blew me back a little bit. Because typically when I'm on dates, girls don't ask me about anything, and I don't really reveal too much.
They like to talk about themselves.
No, not really.
Interesting.
So a lot of the times it's like pulling teeth, and then we just sit there awkwardly.
Oh God, Max, I'm so sorry for you.
Nah, it's fine. I get myself into these situations.
That's fair.
It's like I'm digging the trench, and then I'm like layer the dirt on top of me, and then I get mad when the dirt's on top of me. No, like I did it to myself.
It's a good way of looking at it.
But
It's an interesting way to look at it, I'll say.
yeah. But so we're walking there, and she asks me where I'm from. And so I tell her my hometown, and she goes, no. And I'm like, wait, what? She's like, no, you're saying it wrong. And she tells me how my hometown's supposed to sound. But she says it exactly how I say it. So I'm like, are you having like an issue right now? Because you're not even from the same state I live in. Like, you're an outsider coming in, and I'm saying it right.
Because
And so
you're
I'm
from
like,
there.
this is going to be the best bit of my life. And if I could do anything again, I would revert back to my old self and say, just shut up and get over with this, because it's going to be the worst date of your life. Right? So we're in line waiting. Of course, it's a packed restaurant, right? And I'm just messing around, and I keep on bringing up my hometown. And she gets progressively angry. She gets angrier and angrier and angrier to the point of where she's yelling at me full bore in this restaurant.
No.
And we're in line, and the guy in front of me turns around, and he just mouths, "I'm sorry."
Oh no.
And I'm like, holy smokes, this is going to be the worst date of my life. So sometimes when I'm like super bored, I like to rip things up. Like if I'm like bored at a restaurant, maybe I'll rip up the napkin, or I'll mess around with the cup. It's just like kind of like this weird habit I've developed, another bad
A
habit.
little bit of a nervous fidget type thing.
Yeah, and I told her about that in the first date. Or maybe I didn't, and I just started doing it, and she asked why I was doing it, and I told her I was bored. I don't really remember.
Oh no, you said. Oh well.
No, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So we eat, and she's telling me about some musical she watched. And of course the story is like, it's like half baked, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I just ate a mediocre pizza, and now I'm ripping up a plastic water cup and learning about this musical that I literally have no interest in. This girl, like, I don't even think this girl knows my name. So, of course, I'm like, all right, we good to go? And she's like, she's mad at me because I ripped up my cup. I'm like, really? You're going to be mad at me for this? She told me I wasted the cup, and I'm like, really? No one else is going to drink out of this cup. Like, I put it in the recycles. Like, why are you mad at me? So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we'll just go back and we'll end the date here. She's like, no, I want to hang out more. And I'm like, not good at saying no. So I'm like, okay, sure.
You're like trying to walk around or some shit.
So we're walking down the main strip of my campus, and one of my buddies worked at a liquor store. And I know he's working. And I'm like, hey, I got to stop and go talk to my buddy real quick. And she's like, I can't go in there. I'm not 21. Because at the time I was 21 and she wasn't. She was 20. And I was like, okay. So I ran into the liquor store, and I'm like at the little liquor counter. I'm talking to my buddy, and I'm like, dude, it's going so bad. You got to get me out of this. And he was like, you got to just stay in here as long as possible until she leaves. And I'm like, that's so messed up. What do I tell her? And he was like, no, you got to stay in here as long as possible until she leaves. And I'm like, I'm just going to go out there. Should have listened to his advice. I went out there. Of course she's still there. We went and sat like silently like on an lecture hall step and looked out like at the campus for like no lie an hour and a half. No conversation, nothing. We just sat there.
So I gotta ask, man.
Yeah.
Actually, completely to
Go ahead.
interject. Have you gotten any better at saying no?
I'm a little better, I think.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to like during the pandemic, one of the girls that I was talking to had messaged me and said like, "Hey, come to the park with my family." And I was like, "Nah, it's a pandemic."
Based.
But besides that, no.
Interesting.
Next.
So-
well, it sounds like this whole experience changed you in ways, but yeah, just go ahead and finish this.
Oh,
one
we're
up
like-
for us.
We're like close to the peaking point
Oh.
of bad choices in my life. So I eventually get her to move off the step, and I get her to go kind of where I parked my bike, which is down like by her street, but it's not at her house. She sits down on the curb and will not move. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to bring you back home. Like, it's dark out and you don't live on the best street. I should walk you home." And she's like, "No, I'm not moving." And I'm like, "What am I doing with
Wait.
my life? I'm now babysitting this girl."
Wait, like, she's like, because she doesn't like want to go home, like,
Yeah.
so she's like,
She
just,
wants to continue to hang out with me, but we haven't talked in an hour and a half.
and you were gonna bike away, like you.
I was getting ready to bike away. But I stayed for another half an hour until I got her to go home. So I walked her home, went home. She was like, "Oh, that was the best date of my life." And I'm like, "This girl's had too many concussions." So what do you think I would naturally do in a situation like that?
So naturally, what you should do is never talk to her again.
Bingo. Danny Phantom. But a ghost can only be a ghost for so long.
Did you run into her on campus?
Cue to 3 weeks later, I'm at my buddy's improv show,
Oh,
right? I'm there, I'm watching the show. It may have actually been the rival improvs group show, and then we were just there. I can't really remember because there was two improv groups. But me and my buddy were leaving the show, and I round around this dark corner, and guess who's standing there?
yeah, it's her.
It's her. She's standing in the doorway. And she turns and she says, "I just messaged you." And I look at my phone and there's a new message from her, and I'm like, "No." She's like, "You should come to this after party." And I'm like, "Nah, I got stuff to do. Like, I can't do that. I got stuff to do. I can't do that. I'll see you later. Bye."
So you said
And I
no.
left.
You said no, Max.
I'm proud of you.
I said no, right?
Is it because you had the confidence because you were with your friend?
No, it's because I needed to cook my meals for the week.
Well, listen. As long as you could put up some kind of excuse, and it wasn't even an excuse. You had a alibi.
Yeah, I had an alibi. So I go home, and she's messaging me to come out, and I send it to my friend. I'm like, "Hey, what should I do?" And he says, "You should just be direct with her." And you know what I said?
No.
I said, "Liz, hey, I did not have fun with you last time we hung out. I don't think this is going to work." And guess what the wrong answer was?
Oh no, Max.
She went ballistic.
Oh God, dude. After 2 dates, man.
2 dates and then 3 weeks of not talking to her.
Oh my God, what was she doing during those 3 weeks, dude? Just
Looking
thinking
for
about
I
you.
don't know.
She built a
I just-
shrine to you in the back of her closet.
And it should have been that moment that I should have been like, Tinder was not the correct choice for my life. I should have just immediately been like, no, I should stop doing this.
Taking the high road.
And I did it again for another 3 years or 2 years. Something like
That's
that.
a bad habit, Max.
That's a real bad habit.